Hi, this is Cheri from DJ Sundries, and we are ready for our capsule paper crafting card number 2. Now you may recall from the very first video we did this colorful background using our watercolors, that's part of our capsule, and this Hero Arts background stamp. Use some white heat embossing, and then we just threw down a lot of paint. Now this time I want to go ahead and turn this into a card. Now there's a couple things that I don't like, and that's basically this spot dead in the center here. I don't like this edge and some of the other edges, so we're going to do some creative trimming to get the piece of card that I want to use for the card. And then this card's going to go together very quickly, very simply, because this is a card for somebody special. So, and I think that they will really like it, and they'll like all the colors in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide up my paper cutter. I don't think I can get to where you see the whole thing on camera, but I'm going to start by trimming off this part of the card. I'm not measuring or anything. I'm just going to make sure that everything's square. I'm going to trim that part off because I want to get rid of this nasty part right in there. So that gives me a nice clean edge here. So now I know that I'm going to want to go a little bit smaller than my card base, and the card will be a standard A2 size card, which is 4¼ by 5½. And when I'm looking at this bottom, I don't see anything on the edge here that I want to get off. I was going to trim that, but I don't think I'm going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my little T-square ruler, also part of the capsule, and I'm going to just look at it and see, okay, if I went 4 inches, that's going to take me right up to the middle of that yellow if I go that way. What happens if I turn it this way and go 4 inches? Same thing. So that yellow is really kind of putting us in a bind. So I think what I'm going to have to do is actually center that in the top, because that was the part that I don't want. So that's the part I'm going to end up covering up. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off and clean up this upper edge, just like I did on the other side. As much as I would love to have all this purple down here, if I do that, I'm going to end up having this in the middle, and it's going to be a bit messy. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over from this outside edge, and we're going to go in at 4 inches. Again, I'm not loving that. What if we turned it this way and went in it for it? Every which way we go, that thing's right in my way. Cover up. Just really bad spacing. Let's try it this way. Will that be better? I think I can cut that off enough to make that one work. So let's pull that one off there. So there is our 4. Now I want to go 5¼ So am I going to cut off here at 5¼ or am I going to cut off here at 5¼ I think what I'm going to do is cut off here at 5¼ That'll be the top. Nope, we're going to cut off this way. There we go. 5¼ this way. And we'll still capture some of my blue, some of my purple. And I'm going to save this piece because I could use that on a border somewhere. I'm also going to save this piece because despite the fact that this part here is messy, I think there's something we could probably do with that later too. So now I have a 4 by 5¼ inch card base. Now, in the last video we talked about adding extra layers by adding card layers versus foam tape, and that's exactly what we're going to do on this one. And so I do have a couple of pieces here that I had already cut down into the sizes that I would need for full panels. So I'm going to just trim off that extra 1/4 inch on each side, and I'm going to do that I think on 3 pieces. So we'll have 3 thicknesses underneath this main card. So there's one, there's the second one, And let's do one more. Come in here at 5 1/4 versus 5 1/2. Again, you may think that that is a waste of cardstock, and it somewhat is. However, it's still probably a little bit less expensive than if you were using foam tape. And definitely, if you have a cheaper brand of cardstock, this would be a great time to use this as well. I just don't, because I'm using the Capsule. The other thing you could do if you wanted to make it fun is you could put several layers, and some of your layers in there could be colored layers, and then that would pop it up with color too, so that would also be fun. So now I'm going to grab my ATG gun, and I'm just going to start lining up these layers, and then we'll have a nice strong base to put them on. Now, I could pull out my stamping tool, or honestly my scoring tool, either one, and use the edges of that to help line these up, but I don't think that it's really all that necessary. But you could, if you were worried about it not being square and getting it all off kilter a little bit, then you could do that as well. But I'm just using basically the edge of my glass work surface here to do the same thing, right? So that'll give us just a little bit of an extra dimension to pop behind our card. And then I don't have to worry about foam tape or anything else behind it. Now I'm putting a lot of tape on the back of this, because remember, this is watercolor cardstock, and I use the smooth side for my watercoloring. So what you've got is a textured card going down, and so I want to be sure that I have enough adhesive with the warping of the watercolor paper and with the texture of the watercolor paper that I can still adhere it. Okay, so there we have our card base. Now I know this is still kind of funny looking there, but I think we'll be able to hide it, so we're going to be okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take another piece of the white cardstock here that we had just cut, and now we're going to do some stamping. So there's a couple of ways that we could do this. If I was really worried about that piece, I could just offset it and put it over here, or I could cut it and just make almost like a band. And actually that's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to make a band that goes all the way across, just like that. Now, how do I pop it up so that it's just not a white on top of the color? And I think what I'm going to do that is we're going to pop it up on a little piece of black cardstock, and that'll give us that nice contrast, and it kind of help ground us and bring our eye into the center of this. So let's take our ruler again, and let's see, how much am I really wanting to pull off here? And I am thinking I only need, well, it's about 2 inches, but some yellow showing there is actually a good thing. So I think I want to go about 1 3/4 inches, but I need to decide on which sentiment I'm going to use. And I think the one that I'm going to use is the I love you sentiment on here, because this is for my cousin. And so I don't need a lot of extra space. So I think we're going to go with 1 3/4 inch strip of the black. So I've got my black paper from the Capsule Crafting, and actually inside of there I have a little strip already. And so actually I'm going to go with I think I like the 2 inches. So let's go ahead and go with 2 inches and see what it looks like. How's that? I'm not too worried about this black paper and losing a little bit of it. So 2 inches. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay, 2 inches. So then we're going to go 2 inches by 4 inches. And that's going to be our base. And then we're going to come in with a piece of white card. And now let's go 1 3/4. And I am, rather than going framing all the way around it, I want my edges to actually match on this card. So we're going to have them both be the same width of 4 inches. So you'll have the black above and below, but you won't have it on the sides. And so that's going to be our sentiment strip. And so I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping next. And I think we're going to go with just simple black. Just a simple black, I love you, right in the middle. So let's pull out our stamping platform. I've already got it set up for clear stamping because that was the one I stamped the last. And I'm just going to eyeball that, make sure I've got it right about centered. Actually, I'm not going to center it. I am going to actually put it down here like that because I thought of something else I want to do. So we're going to put that down. Oops, you can't even see it. We're going to put that down in the bottom left-hand corner of our stamp. And then we are just going to use, whoops, I about pulled the wrong ink. That's not part of our capsule craft. So I am going to find buried. I really do have a huge mess here. But somewhere buried we have our VersaFine ink. So we are going to do that Onyx VersaFine, which will give us a really bold sentiment. I'll have to be careful not to get that all over my board. Clean that up there. I guess you can't see that. Now this was not part of my capsule. Shh, don't tell. But it needed, I use it almost always when I'm stamping with my stamping platform. I just find that it gives me such a better image when I use it. Okay, nice bold black, I love you. Okay, now let's get that cleaned off so we don't get black everywhere, as I will. I'm very good at that. Close this. This VersaFine is the perfect, one of the perfect dark black inks. It's actually one of my favorites. I use Archival the most, but this time I decided to use the VersaFine for the capsule. Again, it's not one that I use it as often, and I want to pull out things I haven't used recently. So I'll just clean that off, pull that stamp off, put it back on, it's a keeper. And then the reason I changed my mind at the last minute is because I want to pull one of these butterflies. And I think I'm going to pull the smaller one. Yep. We're going to pull the smaller one here. We're going to put this stamp right back down in the corner off camera where you can't see it. And then I think I'm just going to put this right there at an angle just like that. And you may remember that we used our tangerine ink from Close to My Heart, old ink color. And I am loving that tangerine, and so we are going to do tangerine. Just do a tangerine little butterfly on there. I love butterflies. I have a lot of butterfly stamps. And oh, isn't that adorable? There we go. My family likes butterflies, and so that's another reason why this is great for my cousin, since my family loves butterflies too. Okay, let's pull that off. Well, not literally pull that off, and I'll put that butterfly away later. So now we've used the solid image stamp set from the paper craft, or from the capsule as well. So we are really using up our things, and that's exactly the purpose. Sparking creativity by using up what we have. Okay, so now let's get that on the black. So I am going to turn that upside down. Again, I'm going to use my ATG to mount that. And let's just put that right about, let's center it right there so I can see. I'm sure some of you are yelling, use the T-square, use the T-square. I'm not going to. It probably would be straighter and look neater if I did, but I'm not going to. All right, so now we can assemble our card. So I'm going to pull the card base that we made in the first video, and we are going to start by putting the first layer. Again, I want to put plenty of adhesive on the back, which is one of the reasons I use ATG, because I use so much adhesive. But this is fairly heavy now that it has the extra layers of card in there, and so I want to be able to make sure that it's going to stay together when I mail it, because this one is going a long ways away from where I live. So we'll put that down just like that. Again, isn't that a mess? But it's going to pop in just a second. Now, the one piece that's close to being tangerine colored that didn't get cut off is actually going to get covered up, but that's okay because we've got so many colors there. I think it will be just fine. So I'm going to line that up, and I want some of that bottom yellow to come up. So I'm not really necessarily trying to get it in any particular, quadrant or a third of the card or anything. I'm just putting it by where I want it to cover up. So that's really cute, just like that. But remember, another thing that we have in our capsule is some sequins. So let's see if we have sequins that actually match or contrast. I don't really like the brown. I mean, the tangerine, that's probably not a good match. Let's see about these. Oh, that might be a good one in here, just to give it a little pop of color. These are all retired, so they're no longer available. I do like that yellow, though. I think that's what we'll do. So let's see, which yellow ones do we want? Where do we want them? These are the pre-sticky ones, and they're quite old, so I probably will put a little dot of glue on anyway, and actually that'll help me know where I'm going, just because they are old, and I find that sometimes the adhesive on these don't stick all that well. So I think I'm going to put one there. I think I'm going to put one here, and then maybe one there. So let's do a large yellow one at the top, right there. And then let's do one of these smaller ones down here. So the little yellow that we covered up is, we're still having yellow. It's still coming up on the top of the card now. And this one right here. So now we've got our triangle of yellow. All right, there we have our second card. So card number 2, using our capsule paper crafting, is all done. I know my cousin is going to love this, and she will probably have it before the video goes live. Now there's one final thing I want to show you about the capsule paper crafting that I have done. I'm going to set this aside. may remember in the first video I made a bunch of extra sentiments so that I would have them. So I went into my stash and I found one of these Simon Says pockets, and I put my extra tangerine background that we made, my extra die cut leaf that we didn't use, and my sentiments, and I stuck them all in there. But before I did, on the back of the sentiments in pencil, I put what color of ink I used on the sentiments so that I would know how to match them up. And you know, I'm not going to use all of these between now and when the challenge is over, so I'll have them for down the road, and so that'll make it easy, you know, in 3 or 4 months if I decide I want it, to know what kind of ink to kind of match everything up. So that's just another quick tip from that I got while I was working on these, so that I'm starting to build my stash of sentiments up. So thanks so much for stopping by today. Thanks for joining me in the capsule card. And remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.